All right, today's webinar is on emailing, faxing, and the print driver utilization within Transaction Desk. Should take about 25-30 minutes, and we'll allow for questions at the end. To begin, you're going to see that I am in just our MLS screen, and I'm going to go ahead and open up Transaction Desk, and we'll begin with the email part, which will go fairly quickly. For the most part, we're talking about outbound email, but I will cover inbound email into a transaction as well. So again, it's my suggestion that whenever we're doing anything within Transaction Desk, that we do something within the transaction. Now that will change just a little bit, maybe if you're using this as an entire fax machine replacement in the fax side, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So I'm going to use one of my existing transactions here. So you'll see that I've got the sample listing for Three Waters Edge in Paris. So I'm going to open up that transaction. And if I want to email documents or forms out of that transaction, I can do that directly from the forms or documents section. So in this case, I've only got forms in there. So I'm going to hit go to forms, and I'm going to simply select the forms that I want to email. So we'll say I'm going to send the exclusive right to sell contract, the real property disclosure report, lead-based paint, and radon. I can see that those have been added to my basket, and I've got 4 items in my basket. So I'll go to the basket, and then my 6th icon up here is send via email. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It looks like an envelope. And I'm going to open up that envelope, and it asks me for the recipient name, the recipient email, whether I want any carbon copies or blind carbon copies. I can change my subject right here. So maybe I don't want it to say that Transaction Desk form invitation sent from Paul Brown. I just want this to say listing docs. And then in my message here, if I want to talk about these, I'm going to say here, these are to look over. We will meet to sign soon. And answer any questions soon. Okay. You can choose to either send those as a link or an attachment. I suggest the link because then you can always verify that the client got them. As far as the recipient name, you can type a name and an email address in here. If they are already a party to the transaction, you can click on this contact card right here at the right, and you'll see that your transaction contacts show up here. So the only one I've got in here is myself as the listing agent. Now, you can also go to all of your contacts, right? These would be everybody you have in Transaction Desk, or if you have your Google account linked, which in this case I do not, but it's going to ask me to link my Google account. And if I linked that, I would have everybody in Google. In this case, just so you can see what it's going to do, I'm going to send this to Joe Home Seller, and I'm going to use my email address here today, just so we can see what Joe's Home Seller gets. So I'll use my Gmail account so it'll come through quickly, and I'm going to hit send. If you're wondering this expiration date down here, if you put that in, then the person you're sending these to, if you're sending as a link, will only be able to open those until that particular date. After that, they won't be available. So let's hit send, and we're going to close out here, and it should only take a moment or so. But I'm going to click over to my Gmail account, hit refresh here, delete this right quick. Of course, my patience probably doesn't last very long. Let's see if it came in down here. Nope. Should only take a minute or so right here. So you'll see it looks like it comes from you, in this case, Paul Brown. Listing docs, let's look at that message. Whatever branding you've set up here, so since my branding is for the office, it says Central Illinois Board of Realtors, but if you've set up your branding, it would be your office logo. And it says here that here it should have been they are to look over. We will meet to sign any questions soon. It says you can view these forms by clicking the links below. So if I click that, it pulls up, in this case, my listing agreement. And if your user wants to download that, they can come up here and choose to download that as well. So they can print, exit, whatever they want to do. There's the various pages. They can ask for help, zoom in, zoom out, those different types of things. Okay, so that's emailing. That's emailing in or emailing from Transaction Desk. If you want to email something to a transaction, this can be quite helpful too. Let me show you an example of this. I'm just going to come back to my listing here. So every single transaction in Transaction Desk has a unique kind of long email address. But to get to that, if you're in any transaction up here, so I've just opened this transaction. I'm on the transaction dashboard. You'll notice there's an envelope right here that says email upload. And so I'm going to look at that email upload, and it gives me this long email address right here, which I'm just going to copy and paste. This email address is unique to this particular transaction. So I'm going to copy that email address. Then I'm going to go to my email, and I'm just going to find a sample email here. So I just sent some draft minutes of a meeting, right, that we had. So let me find it here. So I'm going to take this just so you can see through, and I'm going to forward it to that email address. So I just pasted that email address in there, and I'll hit send. And then you'll see it's going to take a few minutes here because that does have to process. But what's going to happen is here in Documents, you will see that email show up and any attachments to that email show up. So where we see that come into place is things like, well, any documents that maybe the other agent has emailed you. Maybe it's a home inspection. Maybe it's a repair addendum. Maybe it's that termite. Maybe we're near the end of the transaction and we want to put the HUD-1 or our closing docs in here. If you have a mortgage loan officer that sent you those documents or the home inspector or whatever, all you have to do instead of downloading and uploading that information is simply just go grab that transaction's email address right here and then forward it into the transaction. So I'm going to hit go to documents here, and we'll see. Have not been patient enough. It's still processing and coming in. Let me see. Here they are though. So you'll see that I've now got this email, which is just the draft of it is a copy of the email that I sent. You'll see in this case, I didn't type anything in that email. And then any attachments that you had to that email will show up as well. And so there's that Word doc in this case. Again, if you wanted to email those out, now that we're in the documents section, to somebody else, you could just select them, go to your basket, and select your email icon over here, your send via email. So that is emailing in and out via Transaction Desk. So all inbound and outbound email. One of the other important things is to make sure that your preferences are set right in the MLS as far as what email address that you want that to come to and from. You can also check that in your setup preferences here in Transaction Desk. So fax, this is the other one. So all inbound and outbound fax is included in Transaction Desk. It comes from an 800 number. It's branded if you have it set up for your branding. And I want to talk about outbound first. So just like we did with email, faxing works the exact same way. So I suggest you do it from a transaction. Now outbound, this will make a little more sense, and then we'll talk about inbound here in a minute. But I'm going to go to the same listing. So maybe instead of emailing those listing docs out, I want to fax them. So again, I'm going to select my exclusive right to sell, my real property disclosures, radon, right, and lead-based paint. And again, I'll come here to the basket, and I'm going to this time, I see those are the 4 things I want to email or fax out, but this time I'm going to hit send via fax. And this asks me, again, it says following items will be sent. Who do you want to send it to? So I'm going to say, again, this is going to be to Joe Home Seller. And here I'm going to put in their fax number without the 1. You do not need the 1. So I'm going to send this to our eFax. And we'll see how long it takes to come in. Now, this is really important. If you want them to be able to send a fax back to you, you need this fax back cover sheet. I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. So I've got my fax number in here without the 1, and I'm going to check this to include the fax back cover sheet. Then you get some options on the cover sheet. So for a header, I'm going to say here sample listing agreement. Right, and here's the message. Here is the listing agreement. And disclosures to complete. Please call with any questions. You also have the option to email me when the fax is returned, right? So you know when they've sent it back, and to include the return documents in that email. So I'm just going to hit send. Now this will take a little time, but I'll show you where you can get your call logs to see if those have gone out. So those did in fact just fax. It will probably not show up here yet, but we can come to history. And you'll just see these are the documents received. But as we come back into history, and that fax actually gets sent out, we'll see the record of that fax here in a few minutes. Inbound fax is a little different. So for inbound fax, again, everything needs to be tied to a transaction. However, if you've gotten rid of a fax machine and you want to use Transaction Desk as a fax machine replacement, one of the easiest ways to do that is just to capture all of your inbound faxes in one place, and then you can move them wherever you would like. So to do that, my suggestion is that you create a transaction for faxes. So I'm going to come back to my agent dashboard here, and I'm just going to hit create transaction, and I'm going to call this incoming faxes. And I'm not going to tie it to a template or a type or anything. And I'm going to uncheck use the wizard because I don't even need that. So now I have a transaction just called incoming faxes, and it pulled me into the wizard, and I don't want to be in the wizard. So I'm just going to come over here to my documents pane on this, and you will see the only thing in documents is a faxback cover sheet. So I'm going to open up that faxback cover sheet. You'll see again it is branded, and it says it has to be sent to this 800 number, and it has this barcode right here. So if you send anybody this fax sheet, or you would give anybody this fax sheet, if they send the fax to this number, okay, with this as the cover page, anything that they put behind this is going to be immediately faxed to the documents section of this transaction. So it'll come in right here, and I'll see if I can't show you an example of that here in just a second. Well, yeah, sure, I can show it to you right from here to see how that comes into way. It's going to be a little strange because we're going to use Transaction Desk to fax to Transaction Desk. So I'm going to open up that cover sheet here again. And again, the number I'm sending that to is going to be this 888-895-6514. Okay. And the way we're going to do this is we'll actually fax this. I'm actually going to download this real quick. So I'll download that cover sheet as a PDF, right? And we want to fax that out. So I'll show you actually another way to do that right quick. If you come back to your dashboard and want to fax that out, one of the other things you can do, it doesn't tie it to a transaction at also. Tracking is a little worse, but I'm going to unlock my panel. I'm going to put my little fax docs right out here as a widget. I'm going to lock my panel back up again. I'm going to hit my fax documents here. It says select documents to fax. I'm going to hit documents. I would have to have that in my inbox folder. So I need to upload that here real quick. I'll just show you how to do that. I'm going to come to my doc box, and here's my inbox. This is just for an example. I'm going to add in a new document. Here I'm going to pull up my faxback cover sheet. So there it's added. And let me add one more random thing here. I'm going to pull something over. Oh, here's an appraisal inspection sheet that we use fairly often. So I'm going to add it in. Again, I'm going to drag this up here. All right. So I'm going to send, and I'm going to now select these two for faxing out. I'll just do it this way again. I'm going to go to my basket and hit fax. My recipient name, again, I'm going to say this is Joe Fax. And that phone number is 888-895-6514. 888-895-6514. This is the first sheet. So if they were sending this from a fax machine, I'm going to go ahead and hit send. You'll also see I get notified when this comes in. So let's give that a minute to process. I hope I've received the other one at this point. Let's go take a quick peek. Let's see. This is telling me that this is an email clear back from when we sent that via email, just telling you that he's opened it, but it doesn't look like my fax has come through our fax to email system yet. That sometimes takes a little bit of time. So we'll be patient on these, and you'll see we get notified when they come in. But let's move on to the last part of this, which actually includes email and fax too. So that was inbound and outbound fax, but the last part is this print driver utilization. Now this is kind of an advanced feature in Transaction Desk. The print driver utilization is for this. Think anything that you can hit file and print on out of any program, whether that be Word, whether that be Adobe PDF, whether that be off the internet, anything you can hit file and print on, you can do a couple things with the print driver utilization in Transaction Desk. First of all, you can add it to any transaction, so you can file and print it directly into any transaction. The second thing that you can do is you can do that direct to email. Now that's a little weird. It would be coming from your Transaction Desk email. Why you wouldn't just drag it into an email program and do it that way, I'm not sure. But you can file and print and have that go out directly from email via Transaction Desk. Or, and this one may be a little useful, you can file and print and send that as a fax from Transaction Desk. Now, the danger to all of those is it is not tied to an individual transaction, so I see that as a little messy, but you do have that option available to you. But first of all, you have to install the print driver, and you've got to install this Transaction Desk print driver on any machine that you would utilize. And so this is a step that you have to do on every single machine, and it's a couple-step process, but I want to walk you through that. So to do that, you come to Setup in Transaction Desk, and it is under Program Settings, and then it is down under DocBox Print Driver Setup. So right here it is. There's also an Authentisign Print Driver Setup that we'll talk about later, but this says DocBox Print Driver Setup, and it gives us some instructions here, but the first thing we have to do is download the print driver, and so I'm going to download it. And once it is downloaded, which you'll see it's about a 15 meg file, so it should not take long to download. Mine is almost done here. Now you may or may not be able to see these steps because I'm not sure that it's going to show them to you on the screen. So let me talk you through it. But I am running that, and it is just doing a real quick install here. Let me see. I bet I can share my screen. Come back over here into Zoom. And yeah, right here, let me hit share. So when I run it, this came up. I'm going to go ahead and hit next and agree and next, and that will install. Oh, and it says my screen sharing has stopped. So my print driver has now installed. I wonder if I can choose desktop. Yeah, that's going to be a little bigger than what I want. Let me hit back here. So it says now, once that's installed, you'll need an activation code to log into the print driver. Click here, Link Devices, to go to Link Devices and generate an activation code. So I'm going to hit activation code. All right. And right now I need to generate one, and I'm going to write that down, or actually copy and paste it. It says it's good for 15 minutes. We only have to do this one time. So XIZZDB. Okay. Now we're going to go to File and Print and see how to set that up. So let me just jump back over here to my MLS screen as an example. So let me go File and Print on it. And now you'll see once that is installed, I'm going to change my printer to, should show up here. Why not? DocBox Printer by Instanet Solutions, okay? So this shows up here, DocBox Printer by Instanet Solutions. This is what I would be sending to, and I'm going to go ahead and hit print, and then I should get a window that pops up here. I do. Now can you see that? Okay, I don't know if you can see this or not, so let me change my settings here again so you can see what's popped up. You know what, actually let's move it over here. This will be easier. And we're going to move this guy over here for the duration. Give me just a second, and I'll make it to where you can see that again. New share, and I want desktop 1. Okay. So now it says, please enter your activation code. Again, you only have to do this one time. So I'm going to put that in there. Check remember me. Okay, so look, here are the options you get whenever you hit print. So first of all, I'd like to upload this document to a DocBox. I'm going to call this test print to DocBox. And then you've got options here, okay? Whether you want that to just upload to your inbox or to a specific transaction. And so let me put that in our incoming faxes transaction. We'll look at that. Or you have the option to fax it right out of here. I'd like to fax it, put in a recipient a fax number, and whether to send them the fax back cover sheet, or you have the option to email it, excuse me, right out of here. And again, you could fill out that information. Again, I find these two to be a little messy because we don't have full control for tying those to a transaction, but this one is great. So I'm going to choose that. See if I can hit print. You can't see it down here at the bottom of that. Hey, it looks like we can add a watermark to that. Let's try that. I'm going to put confidential on that, and I'm going to hit, I hope you can see it down there where it says send document, but my screen is too small, so I'm going to move it over here and hit send. And then let's see what happens. So again, let me come back. It'll probably take a minute, but let me come to that incoming faxes here. I'm actually hoping for a couple things. Yes, and they are all here. I'm going to hit go to documents. So first of all, this is that fax that we sent out, okay? This return fax right here. Remember that we sent, which was just that that appraisal inspection sheet that I sent, but I sent it to a fax number demonstrating to you how that incoming fax comes in. Also, there's the fax back cover sheet that came in. But here's this test print to DocBox. So I just used that print driver utilization, and you'll see I had it watermarked confidential. But again, I just printed that main page out of Inovio, which was the bulletin board and board news. It comes right here into that transaction in Transaction Desk. Couple other things that I want to show you. Let's look at my email now. So first of all, hey, here's that fax I sent out, right? Here's that outbound fax that I sent. So let's take a look at it, okay? Notice how readable and clear it is. So this came to our fax machine, which is an e-fax machine. But the first thing that it got was this fax back cover sheet. So if our client that we sent these listing docs to wanted to sign those documents and send this back, they could do that as long as this was the main page. And it tells them all of this down in the instructions. But here you'll see a very nice, readable listing contract. I'm going to get my disclosures, my real property disclosures down here that they can fill out. And then radon and lead-based paint a little bit further down, all through Transaction Desk. Never used a fax machine, and they can fax them back to us as well. Also notice that I got some notifications. So this tells me that we received a fax. Now this is the one that we sent back to us, okay? But it says this return fax, it was delivered, it went to incoming faxes, and it says that it's been stored in our DocBox, and we even get a copy of it there as far as what was received. So that's a lot in 25 minutes, but again, what we have covered is emailing out of Transaction Desk, faxing both in and out of Transaction Desk, and a little bit about that print driver utilization. I apologize a little bit for the jumping back and forth, but because of the time delay on waiting for faxes to be sent and faxes to be received, there wasn't much way to avoid that today. If you have any questions about faxing or the email driver utilization or that print driver utilization in Transaction Desk, please feel free to give us a call. We can stop by, do an individual webinar, anything that would be helpful for you. But as for today, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then if anybody has any questions, I'll be more than happy to take them at this time. If not, have a great day.